Greetings from beautiful Thunk Studios in Fargo, North Dakota, deep within the depths of the supercharger dead zone. This is the Tesla News and Topics podcast for Monday, October 15th, 2018.
I think we've got quite a lot of good news to talk about, and look forward to sharing that with you.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 21, and sorry for getting this one out a little bit late. Very busy week. I'm kind of working night shift. I'm actually in the middle of a stretch of overnight shifts here. So let's jump to the news. We got a few things to cover, and then for today's topic, I'm going to do three threes, three cool things about the Model 3, three annoying things about the Model 3, and three things you need to know about the Model 3. That'll be our topic for today, so a triple trifecta. In the news, lots of cool things. I think the first thing that caught my eye was the crash test rating and safety testing from the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration here in the U.S. Tesla scored the highest on sort of the raw aggregate data when you accumulate all of the different results from all the different crash tests. It actually scored with the lowest overall probability of injury of any car ever tested. That was a big reason, as you may know from listening to previous shows. It was a big factor in my decision to want to get a Tesla. Initially started with a desire to get a Model X, mainly because of safety and the ability of the car to minimize a front-end impact. The rigidity of the battery compartment, the ability to keep the passenger compartment intact was a big thing for me. And so when this came out, I was very excited, and I thought to myself, this is amazing, really. I just bought a car, sight unseen, essentially, drove it home, knew that I wanted it to be safe. And as it turns out, I didn't realize at the time, but I was actually buying the safest vehicle in terms of probability of injury that's ever been produced. At least that's ever been tested by NHTSA. And I think there's probably a good chance that it's true. That's the safest that's ever been produced as far as a mass production vehicle. So that was pretty great news. Other cool news is that Model 3 is just sort of kicking butt right now. An article from Clean Technica that this actually was published on October 8th describes the Tesla Model 3 as the top-selling American car in the United States. And so to share some of the raw data from this article, the number one selling car in the U.S. sales in September was a Toyota Camry with a base price of about $23,000, followed by the Honda Accord at 25,357 vehicles sold in September. Base price about $23,000. The Honda Civic next. So two Hondas in the top three here, 24,800 sold for a base price of about $19,000, followed by the Tesla Model 3. Now, this is an estimate, but estimated at 24,040 Model 3 sold with a base price of essentially more than double the top three of 49,000. Followed then by the Toyota Corolla, Hyundai Elantra, Nissan Sentra, Ford Fusion, Nissan Altima, Kia Optima kind of fills out the top 10. So this is pretty amazing, actually. It really won't be long at this rate. The top three cars, the Camry, the Accord, and the Civic, no doubt you see every single day that you're driving. But at least where I am, I don't necessarily see a Model 3 every single day I'm driving, and certainly not necessarily a Tesla every day. Days that I go to work, I probably see one in the parking lot. But as far as like driving around, not so much. But this is huge. What you don't notice on this list is there is not a single EV, hybrid, anything on the list. We started with the top 10. As you go further down, they list the top 20 here. We have the Volkswagen Jetta, Kia Soul, Chevy Cruze, Chevy Malibu, Subaru Impreza, Hyundai Sonata, Toyota Prius. So I take that back. The Prius is a hybrid. And then the Ford Focus, Dodge Charger, Kia Forte. So there is one other plug-in electric hybrid on there, or another electric vehicle, but it's a plug-in electric hybrid, and that's the Prius. And that only sold 7,378 units in the month of September. So Honda is not really competing with the Prius. It's competing with the Camry, Accord, and Civic, which is great news for Tesla watchers and those who might be following the stock and curious about their future prospects. At least for the month of September, this is a pretty encouraging statistic. And the last article I would like to cover, trying to keep going with the theme of three, so we'll do three news items and then move on to the triple trifecta. This article is from thisisinsider.com. Not that familiar with this website, but the headline reads, and the article here, the author rather, is Jake Cantor. This was published on October 10th. Richard Branson tells Elon Musk to stop tweeting and get some more sleep. The highlights here, Richard Branson told Elon Musk, I assume in a tweet or a letter, he said he needed to delegate more to improve his quality of life outside Tesla. He's a wonderfully creative person, but he shouldn't be getting very little sleep. He also said that he told Musk to stop tweeting and try to focus on what he's good at. He also said some things that I think are just generic, excellent advice for all of us. He's got to find time for himself. He's got to find time for his health and for his family. He's a wonderfully creative person. He needs to, quote, learn the art of delegation, end quote. Now, that's true for sure. That's great advice. I don't know much about Richard Branson, but I certainly like that quote. He said also, this is also great advice. I don't know if billionaires only listen to other billionaires, but maybe this will help. Branson said, quote, don't feel you have to put out tweets and things about public shareholders. Leave the public game to the people who enjoy the public game. He obviously doesn't enjoy it. So clear the deck so that you can actually then concentrate on the creative side. So great article, remains to be seen, at least lately since the last SEC mocking tweet that Elon put out. It sounds like he's actually been very, very well behaved on Twitter since that time. And with that, let's move on to this week's topic, which is three threes of things that you need to know about the Model 3. I'm going to just go with the triple trifecta here. So let's start off with, now that I have a Model 3, I've had plenty of time to enjoy it. It's been a little over 2 weeks now. I've got about 750 miles on it, and that's all in-town driving minus the initial 230 miles to drive it back from Minneapolis, Eden Prairie, back to Fargo. And I've had plenty of time to notice some things, and some of this, the first thing that I was going to go over was three cool things about the Model 3, things that I think are sort of unique that I have not seen in another vehicle before that people notice right away. Then three annoying things about the Model 3. Granted, these are minor annoyances since overall I really love the car, but there are three things there that you could I think pick on the car about. And then also three things that are important that you recognize about the Model 3 that you really need to know before you have one. So let's jump right in here. Number one, three cool things about the Model 3. The first thing that really stood out to me after about a day or so was there are no door locks. In your standard car, you've got either a button on the door to lock the car, or you've got the little lock knob, the button that you can push down or pull up to unlock the vehicle. The Model 3 doesn't have any of these. I think you can sometimes hear the door locking itself, sometimes inside, but there's the button on the door handle that you push to open the door that unlocks the door and opens it, and then you just sort of push on the handle from the outside. Obviously, you unlock it either with your app or with the key card, but there's no physical lock that I can see. There is a button on the touchscreen where you can lock and prevent opening of the trunk and frunk. But other than that, that's just sort of an interesting thing. And when I tell people about it that I've showed the car to, and when they notice it, they just think it's odd. My wife and I had a conversation the other day. Well, what happens if you lock your phone inside your car and you have your key card in your phone? I have a phone wallet. Now I've locked both my key card and my phone inside the car. But then it just occurred to me, you probably can't lock the car. You can't do the walk away and lock thing, and you can't log it with your key card if it's inside your car. And there's no button that you can push. You can't just open the door, push the lock button, close the door like on a traditional vehicle. So I just thought it was odd that they just sort of decided, these door locks, you really don't need to worry about that. And Tesla just sort of takes care of it. And as far as I can tell so far, it's just a non-issue, not a problem at all. All right, moving on to the second of our triple trifecta, three annoying things about the Model 3. My biggest one, I think, and it's kind of an ironic disappointment because this is one of the things that I was most excited about and I thought was really cool about Teslas, and that's the frunk. The frunk lid is too delicate. It actually makes the frunk a little bit less useful, in my opinion. So for those of you who may not know, the frunk lid, there's a small compartment there. It can fit a large duffel bag in it, I would say. You can open it with the app, and you can also open it with the touchscreen inside the car. But when you open it, you hit the button, it kind of pops open like a traditional hood, and then you just kind of lift it up, and it does a good job. It stays put where you put it. It opens pretty wide, and you can put stuff in there. But then what you can't, you have to very gently bring it down, put it back to the unlatched position, then apply both hands to the hood, right on each side of the Tesla icon, and then gently push down until you get a little snap. You have to give it just a little gentle shove. So what happens after this is if you're carrying something, you have to put it down. And then as soon as you're done doing this, you see your handprints on the front of the car. It's just kind of dumb. This is something that I know it's a way to keep it down. I assume it's because it's aluminum and it's fragile and you could easily dent it. But I would certainly prefer a trunk that was a little more robust, that you could just give a little shove and slam it down like you do a regular hood, I guess, on a traditional car. So that's one of the three annoying things. Granted, it's a little thing, but it actually has prevented me from using the frunk just because of the extra hassle. Like if you go to the gym and you're carrying your bag and you want to put your bag in there, or you have something else like a backpack on, you put one thing in there, you sort of just have to put everything down because it's a two-handed procedure to operate the frunk and then close it again. Number two of the three annoying things is the door opening button and the emergency latch on the doors in the front seat. I have had many people so far without me, if I forget to tell them, go ahead and reach for that emergency latch, pull it up and pop the door open. Now, there's been no damage, but in theory, there could be some damage to the trim on your car. When you hit the button, the window glass actually tucks underneath the chrome trim on the car. When you hit the button, the window slides down just a little bit to clear the trim, and then the door pops open just a little bit so then you can push it open the rest of the way. This is something that's not intuitive for most people. It's very intuitive to just grab that lever and pull it up, and I've had people do that. It's a little bit annoying. I guess I'm not sure what the solution is other than maybe put that lever, I don't know, orient it in a different way, or perhaps, require you to push it down on it instead of pull up on it. I know it's for emergencies and they don't want it to be confusing, so it's annoying. I don't know if there's necessarily an answer for it. Again, just a little thing. And then the third annoying thing about the Model 3 is that when you listen to podcasts and actually sometimes music through TuneIn, the app icons are very frequently wrong. I know when I first started the podcast, a listener sent me a picture of them listening to the show in their Model 3, and the icon, the information was right, and they were listening to the right podcast, but the icon, the art for the show was Anime Addicts Anonymous, which was kind of hilarious. And I did see someone else had posted something, they're listening to the show, and the icon was wrong. I noticed in my own Model 3 that actually happens quite a bit. And then last but not least, three things that you just really need to know about owning a Model 3. The first one, and I think this is real critical, so I'm going to put this as number one. Todd, listener of the show, also sent me a link on this too, and that is Autopilot is not self-driving. Autopilot is driver assist. It is essentially two things, intelligent adaptive cruise control and auto steer in limited conditions. So Todd had sent me an email, expressing his fears that, owners will overestimate the abilities of the car. And he actually sent me a YouTube video, which is really interesting. And what it shows is this guide, this person driving on Autopilot, and they're on sort of a relatively small country road, and he's got it on Autopilot, and there's a turn coming up, and the car kind of drives onto the gravel shoulder of the car, and he doesn't take over, and he's just kind of talking about it. So I'll put a link in there. Todd also mentions that the manual's pretty specific. On page 59, Autopilot limitations, narrow and winding roads, and then again on page 61, traffic-aware cruise control. Do not use TAC on winding roads with sharp curves, and this person basically just did this. I do remember seeing years ago when I was first becoming interested in Tesla, I saw some videos of people using Autopilot, getting in the back seat of the car and goofing around, or pretending to have a picnic in the front seat, all things that really you're not supposed to do. So great reminder from Todd, and I also think that's very important. I've noticed as I'm using Autopilot, there are more conditions where you can use it than I thought, but it really requires you to pay attention one good example of a scenario where you could very easily get burned if you're not paying attention is if you're using Autopilot on city streets. So there's a 2-lane road with several stoplights on my way to work, and Autopilot is available on this road. So I'll occasionally engage it. The real danger here is that it'll follow cars. It'll kind of keep you in the flow of traffic. But as you hit a stoplight, if there's a car in front of you, the car will stop because the car in front of you stops. It does not recognize that there's a stoplight. It just follows the car in front of you. So if you're pulling up and you're kind of moving on in traffic and you're not paying attention, the light turns red, and you are assuming that Autopilot will handle it, you will blow right through that intersection. And I think this is potentially, a very dangerous situation if you are not familiar with Autopilot and really not paying attention. So a good one. Thanks, Todd, for that tip. And I think that's a very, very important and hopefully helpful tip for all of you. Number 2 in the 3 things you really need to know is that you can use the app to start your heater and to sort of warm up the battery pack. My understanding at the time before I got the Model 3 was that you had to hit, I guess, some sort of preconditioning button or do something. And the Model 3 at least does not have that. You just turn on the climate controls. And I just learned this morning that when you do that, if it's cold enough outside that the battery needs to sort of warm up, there'll be a little icon of a snowflake over your battery. And so, again, Tesla just sort of handles this automatically. They don't, require you to take this extra step. It'll just happen if it needs to happen. And then item number 3, the garage door home link programming is pretty awesome on the Model 3. I've not had a car that does this, so this may seem stupid, and maybe it's not necessarily exclusive to Tesla, but at least in my experience, I've never seen this before. I will say it takes a little bit of time, but the car has the garage door opener sort of transmitter in the front of it, and it has controls for this within the touchscreen, which is great. So you can program your car. You just tap on the home link icon, then tap on whichever garage door you want to open up, and you can name it and program it for several. I assume I've only got a program for one right now, but I'm sure you could do 2 or 3. And you just hit that, and you can set it to make a little chime that it's done that. Open and close your garage door. That's great. But what I think makes it extra cool is that you can actually program it to auto open and auto close the door, which is awesome. My kids love this. I actually really enjoy this, and I'm spoiled already with this feature. So when you pull in, you open the garage door however you normally do. Sometimes I'll hit the button on my way into the garage. Sometimes I'll get in the car and then hit it, open the garage door. When you pull out, it'll start kind of counting down distance, and it knows when you're significantly out, when you've moved out far enough to go ahead and close the door again. It'll give you a little sort of countdown, and it'll say closing in 10 feet, 5 feet, and then a little chime, and then your door closes and you drive away. And also when you return, when I pull in the driveway, I've set a certain distance to go ahead and hit the door, garage door opener. Pull in the driveway, it'll start counting down 50 feet, 30 feet, and so on. And then essentially right when I'm at the right spot, it'll chime, open up the door, and I just pull in. It does not close it after you've pulled in, which I think makes sense. So you have to go ahead and hit the button. Woe is me, I have to hit the button to close the garage door after I've pulled into my garage. But I think that's a really neat feature, and wasn't necessarily something that I was expecting. Only thing that I would say about this, it's probably easier to do this with 2 people. Depending on your particular garage door opener, you kind of have to get in and out of the car, go back to the touch screen, and you may have to get up on a ladder and hit a button on the actual motor unit in your garage door opener. So you may need 1 or 2 people to do this, but well worth it. Once you have it set up, it works very consistently. In fact, it's better than the garage door opener that came with it, the little one that you clip on your visor, much better than that. Great job with that. And so let's try to wrap the show up. Thank you all again for listening to the show. I sincerely appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. If you have feedback for the show or a topic you want me to cover or just a question, you can reach out to me, email at teslanewstopics@gmail.com. You could also reach out, message me, or just reach out on Twitter at teslanewstopics. I do have a referral link. At the time I'm recording this, today is the last day that Tesla will guarantee the full federal credit in the U.S., so you'll want to get that ordered. Most likely by the time you're listening to this, it's too late, but nonetheless, my referral code is ts.la/Jeff62003. Let me know when the show shows up on TuneIn. I have submitted it. They have confirmed that it's been received. Still waiting for it to show up. If you feel like supporting the show financially in any way, you can do so on patreon.com. That's patreon.com/teslanewstopics. Also, remember to subscribe on iTunes. Leave a positive review if you can. And with that, have a great week. I'll talk to you next time.